Can you open the first image for us, please? Can everybody see the image on the board? I just want to ask, Doctor, what is the first thing that you think of when you see that?
Trying to write with an ink pen and making blotches.
Interesting. Okay, open the next one, please.
What do you want me to see? trying to be a circle.
Okay, next one.
I think that's a little child who made a picture with paint. I see eyes, it's upside down, and I see a mouth, and I see a star at the back.
That's actually my payslip.
Shame to you.
But interesting. Okay, and then the last one.
I think that's stars. The stars in the universe.
What do you see? Give it to me.
If children like make Christmas paintings, they take a toothbrush and they take a white paint to make snow. That's what I'm.
Anybody else see anything interesting? Ek dink Dion kan niks sien. Let's give Dr. Marx a round of applause. So, for those of the people in the audience who don't know you, Doctor, give us some background on who you are, where you come from, and what you do.
Okay, I was born in Krugersdorp, stayed there all my life. I got married when I was 21 to Peter. I'm still married to him. Been married for a long time. I've got 2 daughters. The oldest one, Madeleine, lives in Centurion. I've got 3 granddaughters. The latest one was born on Wednesday. Yeah. Unfortunately, they live in New Zealand. So, but we'll see them. I'll see her. Her name is Mika. She was born. So, yes. So, and then I've been living in East London, I think, for 16 years. Before that, I was a teacher for 27, and the last 10 years of my teaching career, I started studying because I've always been a student. I love that, and I started studying. I didn't really want to become a principal or an HOD in the education department. That was not my calling. I used to do drama and art with children all my life, and taught a lot of children many things. And in that time, I realized that when children, when they act, and even if they draw, if they play, they heal themselves. I saw that so many times in my class, all over, and I was drawn to it. And then when I was, my youngest brother died when he was 35, and I saw the pain that his children experienced, and also the whole family. And I realized that we didn't handle it correctly. We didn't know. We had no idea what to do. And that led me eventually to do my master's degree in unresolved bereavement in children. And I did a lot of research in that. And yes, by doing that, I learned to help people to cope with the pain, because you have to go through pain. You can't avoid that. And then I was still teaching, and then I became very interested in children's and play therapy. So I did a few courses, and then I did my thesis for my PhD at children's, developing a play therapy model that comes out of the Bible. And what I learned through it is to work very hard, to use my time right. And then I opened my own practice. So I've got my own practice at home, and well, I do believe that my calling is to help people heal. That's all. And I also I've seen many people being healed, not by me, but I work from a biblical perspective, not a church perspective. So that's me. And I'm very interested in Hebrew. I'm very interested in the basics of the Word of God.
That's awesome. I think the question I have, it's really hard to define what we are talking about. Even coming up here, trying to think of how to introduce talking about mental health. I'm not sure I understand completely what it is.
Well,
I know what it means to be mental.
Yeah.
I've got that part down.
Yeah.
But give us an explanation of what is mental health.
I didn't realize that last month was October was the World Mental Health Month. Did you know that? Okay, I didn't realize. When I started to research, I saw that, and it's actually a wonderful thing, that there's an awareness of that. And I would say, well, mental means to think. And health means to be disease-free. So it actually means, if you just get down to the basics, that your thinking is disease-free, and it can start very, very subtle to have wrong thinking patterns. And that's the basic that the Bible actually teaches, that we have to take our thoughts capture. So mental health is actually, the Bible is full of it. Well, the Bible is full of everything if you just know where to look for it. But to be mentally healthy means that you have to, from when you're little, you have to learn to control your thinking, and you have to understand and be able to express yourself. So, but mental health, if you look into the broader spectrum, there is a stigma. Jeanien, I'm sorry, when I spoke to you before, I said to you, I don't believe there's a stigma. It's because it's not a stigma to me. And the people that I see, we don't talk about that. But I can remember when I first opened my practice, people would often say to me, I hope your neighbors don't know I'm here. Or, where can I park my car? And then it bugged me then. It was difficult to see that it was for people so difficult. But it never bothered me. But then, when I started to do research, I realized that when I looked at some movies and what people see all over, it is really, there is not an awareness. And there is a stigma that you need to get help with your brain or your mind or what's going on, and it can start so subtly. That's the thing, we don't always see when it starts to begin.
Why is it so easy for us to admit when there's something wrong with us physically, to go and see a doctor, but so hard for us to admit when we need help mentally?
I think we don't realize. We as ourselves don't really see when something is wrong with you. You must have experienced that with friends and family. You see their problems, but they don't see it. Because once you get into this pattern, it's like you just go deeper and deeper and deeper into a pit. And you don't realize that until it's actually sometimes a little bit too late. When you start to think, I think it will be better for me to not live, something should have happened before, but this can become a pattern. It can just go on and on and on. But even, anger and fear and anxiety and guilt feelings, all those things start sometimes with trauma, and that you don't get over that. You don't work through it. And then you hold on to certain stages of traumatic experiences. So we are all vulnerable, and emotionally, the world doesn't worry about us. And it's so easy, we all have the lovely phones, and we communicate with each other, and we've got little faces that we put on, and we choose, we choose what we want to say. And everything looks so nice and so fine and so wonderful, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what goes inside you. And I think that's why we don't see it, we don't feel it. We don't know what's normal. We don't always understand.
I have to admit something.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awkward to admit, but I forgot my notes at the back. JP, can you my tablet bring us, please?
I'll help you with that.
While you were talking, I was just thinking, I can't remember what the next question is. So I didn't listen to a word you said. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll watch the video. All right. This is better.
Yeah.
The first thing that we discussed of talking about is depression. And I want to give some statistics here for the people that 7% of people will experience depression each year, and 18 to 25 years of age group is the most prone to depression. So what is depression and what is not depression? And we spoke about this at the young adults, and I've noticed this amongst teenagers especially, that depression, and I don't think it is a good thing, has become cool. So we say, I'm feeling depressed, or #depressed.
Yeah.
And everybody has depression. So what is depression? What is the cause of it? And
Depression, real depression is something that changes your life in depth. If you're really depressed, you cannot get up in the morning. You lose energy. You can't sleep. You can't enjoy anything anymore. You don't have energy. You are tired. You don't see things the way they are. You eat too much or too little. You actually just want to stay in bed. I can remember I went through a few months of a real depression at some stage, and it was very shortly. But then I could understand, because sometimes people would say, "Oh, just get on with it. You just plain lazy. Do your thing." But on the other hand, there's also labels, and people put labels on one another. They would say, "Oh, she's bipolar. Forgive her. She's been on a trip." And we need to be very careful that we don't just put a label on somebody and say, "Oh, well, you're depressed," because it's really depression is an illness. It's an illness. There's substance in your brain that's not there. And it starts very, very slowly. And yes, there's always room for improvement, but there's a time for medication. And we can't say, no, I'll pray for you. And yes, God can heal. Jesus healed people, mental people, instantly, and he can. But we are also responsible for the consequences of the actions that we've taken. Because very often, depression comes from your lifestyle, So, yes. But it bothers me to hear that it's between 18 and 34. 18 is a time of your life when you have to be happy and carefree. Why would people become depressed when they're 18 years old?
I want to give a shout out to Ryan for the research. Thanks, Ryan. Talking about that age group, the second leading cause of death among people between the ages of 10 and 34 is suicide. Why is young people struggling so much to cope?
There you say it again, 34. So if you think we live 70 years, that's 10 times 7. So we've got 777. After every 7 years, there's a change. 7, 14, 21, 35. So 35 is halfway. So halfway, you should be in your adulthood, already settled. And that's the time when you're prone to these things. Jesus was 30 when he started his ministry, died when he was 33 years. That's your top time in your life, when you're 33. So I don't know. What do you see? You work with young people. You know what's happening.
I think a big cause, and I don't have children, so that makes me an expert. But what I see, especially from people first year out of school, is the shock and reality of life. So what happens is, and there's nothing wrong with it in its core, but we keep telling young people from a young age how special they are, and that they're special, and that they're special. And then when they enter into the real world, they realize that they're special like everybody else, and that they still have to face the challenges and responsibility of life. And because there's a lack of mentorship, I think, in that age, they start mentoring each other and giving each other advice, and I think it's led to some strange things.
Yeah, I was looking up here in Romans 5:3-5 says, not only so, but we also glory in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces perseverance and character produces hope. And we have to, as parents, allow our children to suffer. Because where do you learn to cope if things doesn't go well? I don't make the A rugby team. My dad goes to the principal, say, "Why is my little boy not in the A team?" And then we talk about it at home, and everybody's bad, and we don't let this child cry. Tiana once worked with a little girl. Her dad died of cancer very quickly. He was within 3 months. He died. He was dead, and she was 5 years old. But the family didn't allow her to mourn. They did everything. They took her to movies. They bought her sweets. She had everything that a child could have. But she was sad. She just stayed sad, and then her mom got cancer. And then I worked with her for 3.5 years. The mom on and off, not all the time. And the mom passed away. But at that time, she could mourn her mother. She had to learn, because she had to go back to the pain of her father. and then she could mourn her mother. And when her mother eventually died, she said to me, I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved. You know, for a child of 13 years to say that she's relieved, but she was prepared for it, and she could grieve. She could go through the stages of grief, and she's fine now. She's matric next year. She's doing very, very, very well. So we need to allow our children to mourn. We need to allow them to cry when they get hurt. Don't take it away from them. Don't cushion them. They have to learn pain. Because if we don't learn pain, what happens if you're grown up?
I just want to mention, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a WhatsApp. As we go, we're going to do a question and answer session at the end. JP, kan julle dalk my nommer opsit op die bord? So feel free to send questions as we go. We go through that at the end. We will also give you opportunity to ask questions, but so that you don't forget the questions. The second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is I had the privilege of counseling at a primary school for about 2 years in East London, or maybe a year and something. And what shocked me and what I didn't understand was, and I'm not exaggerating if all the kids I saw were on medication.
All of them.
Without exception, the ones I saw, but obviously they were ones that were going through things. But out of a class of 25 kids on average, between 19 and 20 of them were on Ritalin or some sort of medication. So what is ADHD? Is it a real thing? When do we need medication? And
yes, it's real. It's very real. Everybody who read the book Wild at Heart would know that boys needs to be active. You know, they need to run around and climb on things. They're not all meant to be little lawyers with ties walking in lines. They need to express themselves. So after saying that, the research has shown that 3% of people do need ADHD medication. 3%. That means that you have got ADD, that is attention deficit, plus impulsivity, plus hyperactivity. Those three together. And if you take the medication, then it will help you and nothing will go wrong. It will help your brain. You'll be able to fulfill your duties and everything. But I've seen and I've learned that children who can sit still and eat when they're little don't have problems with concentration. Because what do we do as parents, as a community? We keep children entertained and spoiled. If your child cannot sit still 3 times a day and finish their meal, they won't be able to concentrate. And I know I maybe step on toes, I don't mind. That's the way it is. Think of your children, think what they do. If you go to the Spur, I only go to the Spur with my grandchildren. I hate the place because the children runs up and down and they go crazy. And they can't sit still and they can concentrate to eat, because if you're really hungry, you will. And your blood sugar spikes all the time. So basic concentration, basic structures, every day of the week, go to the bed at the same time, get up at the same time. Mommies and daddies has the same reaction. It's a boring life for adults. We know it's boring to have children because you do the same thing over and over again. But you reap the benefits from it. No, it's not about you, it's about children. Yeah, that's what I have to say. So there's a place for it. Okay.
In the beginning, I read from the book of the people whose suffering is silent, or we don't hear the suffering, or we ignore it. Why are we as a society so deaf to other people's suffering?
I think we all live on islands. We don't live in communities anymore. We are not in tune with one another. And that is so good to see you, Tian, with all your friends around you. Know. I think that's just fantastic. We need a family. You need that they can support you, and and we have to be honest. I think honesty is vital. And then also, we all need to check ourselves from time to time and see, am I sleeping well? Am I tired most of the time? Do I get angry so often? I'm not talking about men who think it's grand to be angry and have, anger issues. But of saying that, I just want to tell a story. I once saw a little girl. She said to me, the lady at the doctor, she's very scared of her. She's tall and thin, and she wears thick glasses. And you know what? People with thick glasses are very, very angry, and you must be very careful for them. I thought, why? Maybe something happened to this child. I thought, this doesn't sound so good. Until I met the father. He was tall and he had lots of glasses and thin, and then I realized this man is very angry, and we need to keep that in touch. But if you feel that you're detached from reality, if you can't concentrate, if days go by and you've just lost reality, then you have to check yourself. And
what is some of the warning signs? We had this discussion Wednesday night at a young adult cell, and one of the questions that I thought was hard to answer was, if you have friends and family, what is some of the warning signs of them struggling mentally? Because you cannot send every single person you deal with for every circumstance to go and see somebody. So what are some of the warning signs that we can look out for in our children or in our friends?
Yeah. Excessive sadness, lack of concentration, looking as if you're not there. You don't get, you don't know, you don't really understand what's going. You seem to be out of control. If there's excessive mood changes, if you're very sad or very happy. Now let's talk about bipolar. It happens, but then it's excessive. Then also people, if people say the same things over and over again, like I feel paranoid, they use words, I think somebody's following me, I'm not, they've got this, something is bothering them, they don't know what. And then excessive fear. Fear, if you have a fear that starts to control you, then that's also a sign. And then also, if you start to eat too much, or you stop eating, don't sleep well, and if you have suicidal thoughts, if you think a lot about death and what will happen to you, it's there. And then drug and alcohol problems, of course, starts to get worse, and you have trouble to understand what other people say and what they mean. You take the wrong. You get upset about small little things that shouldn't be. So, yeah.
What is the responsibility of the church in helping people with their
They should educate. The church is here to teach, to educate, and to bring people together. That's what the community should have.
And I'm really excited about this part, because tonight's topic is mental health from a biblical perspective. So explain to us and the people watching on the video, how has the Bible influenced your practice? And explain to us maybe your process of if somebody comes to see you that's had a traumatic experience, what is the process and how did the Bible affect that process?
Okay. I did a tremendous study of the creation gospel. I don't know who knows what that is, what that really is, but the creation gospel teach that right through the Bible there's a pattern of sevens. It's over and over again. So what happened? In my practice, I had ways of doing things, listening to people, and also trying to get to the core of the problem. Because once you get to the core of the problem, it's easy. But people sometimes need somebody to help them to just see this is where my problem actually is. Sometimes it takes one session or two, and then they're fine. But then I started to work at the women's safe house. like 4 years ago, and I thought I knew. I thought I had an idea what abuse was. I had no idea. So I started to work with this woman, and I said, God, Father, help me. I don't know where to start with them, because when I come there, they've got nothing. They absolutely nothing with them. And a lot of the women who comes to the shelter, to the safe house, they've been abused for so long that they're devious, and they quite characters. So to get to know them, and I knew I had to start somewhere, and I began, and I did not think this thing out of my own. It didn't come from me, but according to the creation. Now think of the creation. It was God created the world. It was lovely. There was a garden. There was smells. It was fragrant. The seas were there. The rivers were there, and everything was just fantastic. And the Adam and Eve was in a good situation, and the animals was in tune with each other, and God walked with them, and it was just fantastic. It was just wonderful. And then there was another voice, and the voice said, "Is it true? Is it true that God said that you shouldn't?" And the voice said, maybe, can it be that God doesn't want you to be like him? And that's when it all changed. Okay, so to come back to the creation gospel. If you think of the 7 colors of the rainbow, it starts with red and ends with blue. It ends with purple. On the first day, God separated. He created nothing. He separated. So if you are in a situation where you are really in darkness, now anybody with a problem is in darkness. Even if I drive and I get stuck, somebody jumped in front of my car and I hit them, I'm in darkness because I'm in pain, So you're in darkness, but then God separated the darkness from the light, and the light comes from God. Because God is light, and there is no darkness in him at all. So, first thing is that who you are, where you are, and giving hope and saying, okay, now what are we going to do there? Yeah, we're going to look at where's the light. And you start to write what you feel, what you think, and what you want. And it sounds so simple, but try that. Try starting to write that every day for 7 days, what you feel, what you think, and what you want. Because by doing that, you work with your soul dimension. And for men, it's very easy to say what they think. For women, it's very easy to say what they feel. But for women, to do both, it's very difficult. And then also to start to say, but what do I want? What do I want from the world, from God, from my life? And then also going along with that, I urge people to start reading Proverbs. By the way, today is the 24th, am I right? So Proverbs 24th is the Proverbs of the day, and I haven't done it fully, but if you read Proverbs from 1 to 31 for 8 months, you know how to live. So by starting to get that wisdom in you, you eat it, you read it. It's very difficult. It's very, very challenging to concentrate and read that. But then I challenge people to do that. And the ones that do that and they start to write and work with me, there's something opens. On the second day, God separated again. He separated the waters of the earth, on the earth, in the earth, around the earth, and also heaven went away. God dwells in heaven, so heaven and earth separated. So we have to also then look at our lives and the stages. We have to separate what's happened in our lives, good things, bad things. And when you do that, and you do that properly, the light will shine and show exactly where the problem is. That's the second step. Third step, yellow, third day, growth. But with growth, before growth can come, there needs to be forgiveness. But deep forgiveness, saying it, using the words. Because it's easy to say, I forgave him. You have to really look at that. Then on the fourth stage, there comes a time when you say, no, this is my time. It's like Esther and Joseph and Daniel. It says, but what does God want of you for in this time of your life? What does he want? And then you confront yourself with that question. It's a time for you to learn to go in a new direction or to take care of yourself, whatever needs to be done. That's hot. It's hot. It's red and orange and yellow is hot colors. It's not easy. It's difficult. There's a lot of tears, lots of crying, lots of difficult times. But then it changes and you come to the cool colors. You come to the red, to the blue and the indigo and the purple. And that's on day 6, God made He made the fishes and the birds and the sky and the movement of the wind and the seas and the currents. It was all made on that day, and it reminds us of the Holy Spirit. Because once you've finished with your issues, then God's Spirit starts to flow. And it's not as if you sit there and let God's Spirit flow. It happens. It happens if you are committed. God's Spirit. You've been busy with His Word. You're starting to pray. You ask God, and God says, "Call me, and I will be there. Call me by my name, and count your days." Everything's in the Bible. It's all there, but you have to go and explore it, and take it out. And then on the 6th day, God made beast, and He made man, and He made Adam and Eve. And once again, He made Adam, blew His ruach in him. And then He separated, He put him in a deep sleep. And the Hebrew word is tzelah, and it actually means He separated him, He cut him in half. That's what He did. And Adam woke up and he said, "You flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone." So He separated again, and then He put them together. And then on the last day, there's rest. And if you've been through this process, then you can go on, and you can actually go on. But what I really enjoy about it, it's vital. It's color. I use a lot of art techniques with it, and but it also depends on the person, because everybody's not the same. And it's good in that time, or with the women in the safe house, to give them reading material. And there's lots of DVDs available, that can substitute where you're going. So that's my program.
That's awesome. I want to read some of the questions, and if that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just need to get to WhatsApp. The first one: to have an unforgiving spirit, would that influence your life in the long run? Isn't it important to forgive people even if you feel it might not mean anything to that person?
Okay. To say you have an unforgiving spirit, that's not true. I don't believe so. I don't believe that. I believe you can't forgive. It's as simple as that. It's not a spirit, it's you. It's a choice. What do you say?
Ask them. And the second part of the question: is it important to forgive people even if you feel it might not mean anything to that person?
Yes, because you don't set them free, you set yourself free. Even if they're dead, if they're gone, you have to say it. You have to use your words. You have to say it. Because if you don't do it, how can God forgive you? You must do it. Just get over yourself. Forgive them. Go on. Don't make such an issue of it. Don't be so sorry for yourself. Just get on with it. Yeah.
The next question is, ek kan nie die woord lees nie. Hereditary.
Oh, hereditary. Yeah.
What factor does it play, and what does me?
Yeah,
Firstly,
I know
what factor does it play, and what does the Bible say about it? Van Talimlane.
Hereditary, yes. Yes, we've inherited certain aspects, certain ways. Not just physically. You don't just look physically like your parents or your grandparents or whatever, but what they did have an influence on you. And it says in the Bible that up to the 4th generation, then God stopped the generation. Stops it. But then, what about all the goodness? But if you know your family is prone to, let's say, depression, then you look out for it. It's the same. If you know your family is prone to cholesterol, you look out for it. You don't eat too much. You look for it. You make sure that you live a healthy life. But it plays a major role. But you cannot make excuses. And I think we often do, not take responsibilities for ourselves, because we know how to have a good lifestyle and a proper life and live properly. And if you know in your family and you've gone, for example, now we didn't touch on this, but there's normal depression, there's normal guilt, there's normal anger. That happens after trauma. Any trauma that you've experienced, whether you kick your foot against the wall, you say, ouch, that was sore, that's pain. Okay, that's a shock.
Precies wat ek sê. That's exactly what, no other words. I know.
So that's a shock. Okay, what's the first thing you say? I can't believe this has happened to me. And you think, I wonder if it's broken, You say, I can't believe this is happening to me. It happens to other people. I have to be somewhere and it happened. And then you say, what could I have done to not allow this to happen? So you have guilt. You go through guilt. And then you are angry. Angry at yourself, angry at the wall, at your foot, everything, at the doctors. They didn't tell you to not cut, your mother and father. You get angry at everybody except yourself. But that's normal. That's normal to be angry. And then you are scared. You're scared next time you walk past that wall. You think about it. It's like being in a car accident or falling off a horse. If you fell off a horse, get on the horse, go. Otherwise, you'll be too scared to get on it again. That's normal. And after that, you will go into a little bit of a depression. It's like after death. If somebody lost somebody close to them, you go through those stages. It takes time. You have to go through it. You cannot skip it. You have to go through the loss, the shock, the denial, the guilt, the anger, the fear, the anxiety. That's normal. Many people, after they've lost somebody close to them, somebody that loved all their lives, for years, they can get stuck. But if you get stuck, do something. You cannot for 20 years say, I should have been there for my husband. God, you have to get over it. But it's normal for a certain time, okay? Yes, okay. So, hope I answered
the next question. Are there any statistics on possible exponential increase or decrease of mental issues over the last 30 years or so?
I think it's on the increase, if I read the internet correctly. What do you say? It's on the increase. Yeah. I think so.
I think so too. Next question. Autism, please tell me a bit more of it. Asperger, for instance.
Yeah. Well, how long time do we have? I've worked with lots of. I taught at Arcadia for 4 years when I came to East London. And that was the time when I really started to learn what that is all about. It happens. It's a general thing. We don't unless you really know how it works and what it entitles. You've got no idea. It's very difficult for parents and for families who has an autistic, mild or severe, and Asperger's in their home. Everybody has to adjust to that, and it happens a lot. I don't know if it's an increase or not, but maybe we are more aware of it than in the past. I think that is what happened. I hope the stigma is gone. That we can embrace children, even adults with those that is Asperger's syndrome. It's very difficult, but to go into the detail and what it is, or what the symptoms and everything is, that takes another talk. It's long. Yeah.
And the same question, second part is, how powerful is words in mental health?
It's very powerful. God created the world. He created the world with words. And what you say to yourself. There was a Japanese man who did some. Do you know about the tests that a guy did with bottles and water? Sterile water. If you look on the internet, you'll find it. It's very interesting. He had lots of bottles and then sterile water in the bottles, and he put words on it, on the bottles. And he would say hate and love and Hitler and all sorts of words. And the bottles with the negative words started to become dirty. It became cloudy, and when I looked at it under a microscope, it was getting bad. The water changed, but the water with the good words on didn't. So yeah,
that's interesting. This question is from Avi. What was I? He says, "Do you think Tian is 100% okay?"
Yes. Yes. You know what? Yes, I think so.
I don't even know him knew how a phone
I
works.
think you're very honest. And you don't, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. But, yeah, Theo, no, I think you're okay.
What's it, Nedo? Does anybody else have a question before we close? Does anybody want to ask anything? You don't have to WhatsApp it, you can just ask anybody. Okay, I'll just take the mic to them.
I want to understand, or I want to maybe ask the question that why that question on the exponential growth or decrease or increase came from me. And I want to somehow try and understand how and why. Because I'm 57 years old. I went to the army, fought in a war that had nothing to do with us, gone through all of these bad things.
And it didn't affect you.
And it didn't affect my generation.
Yes.
Are we just stupid? Did nobody tell us? Or why is it that all these bad things, why are there so many bottles with bad labels on now?
I think it's become fashion to take things from the past. I read in a newspaper this week that Marita van der Vyver wrote a book about the war on the the Grens War. What did she know? But anyway, so but on the other side, you also have 16 personalities. There are 16 different personalities. Some people can cope. Some, we all also have different gifts. Your personalities and your redemptive gifts, they actually complement each other. So your personality is just, you take things and you let it go. So maybe also when you grew up, maybe when you were little, you learned how to work hard. Maybe your life wasn't all moonshine and roses. And then a very cushioned child who goes to the war or whatever would find it extremely difficult to do that. But I would say it's personality. And if the bad things happen to you and you accept it and you cope and you just go on, well done. But thank God for who you are. Because not everybody can take it that way. We're all different.
Any other questions?
Okay. I recently heard this thing about emotion, that sometimes you'll have an emotion where you experience trauma at the age of 10, whatever. And then emotion doesn't have an age linked to it. So if you may be like 40 and something similar happened and you explode and you don't understand what just happened, that's some... Okay, I'm going to get to my question. Okay. So if those things are like reoccurring, even like, okay, you make sense of it's a 10-year-old emotion, you're 40, you should be grown up now, just get over it. Is it the whole process of...
You haven't. If something like that happens, you haven't closed the circle. You didn't work through it at that time. Say, for instance, a child... okay, let's take a very simple example. A man he has a braai. They go for a braai and he braais the meat, and somebody says to him, you can't do this. You don't know how to do this. You're just making a mess of it. You've burnt all the meat. Then something comes up at him and he can't control himself and he starts shouting and screaming like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. So that links to an event that happened when he was little. So then he acts like that age. And it happens often because you are emotionally linked to the bad experiences that you've had. But how do you then stop it? You ask for forgiveness. You draw a picture, or you write it out, or you talk to somebody about it, and you take responsibility for what happened there, although you were maybe 5 or 6 years old. But that's why it's so good to take children for play therapy. It's so good for them to play with toys, to draw things, to go outside and to imagine things. And they need to have the opportunity to do that. Did that answer your question?
I think we have time for one or two more questions. If anybody?
Hi. We have a tutor center where we have about 44 children in, and all of them, except for one maybe, are divorcees. Some of them are ADHD, some of them are autistic. So while they are there, we try to influence very positively. My question is, the positivity that we plant while they are in the center, and then when they go home, do we actually make a difference?
Eventually, yes. Yes. Years ago, I taught in Mafeking, and it was in 1994. So there was change, and we had to take rural children into the school, into a very Model C school, and there were children in my class that couldn't read, they couldn't speak English. It was just so difficult. And then I realized that on Mondays it was terrible. I couldn't control them. By Fridays they were fine. And they were all there. And then I spoke to somebody one day and I said, I can't take this anymore. I can't. This is just so much. They said they go home. I'm sorry for you. They go home. So they go back to their environment. But you do make a difference. You do make a difference. You know, two of those little boys, they would follow me wherever I went. They sat outside the staff room waiting for me. And they gave me, they called me their mother. But they had another mother. But if you are a mother then, and what you plant into them lasts forever. You know, it says, the Bible says God will judge us. God will not just judge the bad. He will reward the good. That's more important, because that's what you do for those children, you'll never know. But God knows. And one day, you will know. And that's what it's all about. Because you cannot change their lives. We would love to. You know, you would love to change children's lives, because you see they're aching and you see their pain, but you can't. But you are there at this time, and that's important. Okay.
Last question.
Yeah. Yeah. There are children who should not, you know your children's personalities. There are children, you can just look at them. And you must be very careful and do it very well. The Hetty Brits has got on YouTube small little 5-minute teachings. Go and look at that, what she says about giving children a hiding. It's in Afrikaans. And it's very profound, what she says. But there are children who need that. Because do we learn if we don't feel pain? No. But pain can differ. You know, for everyone it's different. But you must never break a child. You must never make them feel ashamed. So you do it in privacy, and you do it and warn them. Children should know when they are going to go. But you don't hit children when they break things, or when they, for normal stuff. When they're disobedient, when they steal, and when they lie. Those are the things. If you read Proverbs, it's there. Yeah, we have to. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Let's give Dr. Marx a round of applause.
Okay. Dion, can I say something?
Yes.
Can I end? Okay. I want to just encourage you to think of yourself as a tree. Because when the Bible talks about trees, it talks about people. See yourself as a tree in a forest, because trees are not alone. And we grow, and our trees needs to be rooted. And if you didn't have the roots when you were young, get it now. But root yourself in the Word of God. Because if you root yourself in the Word of God, your tree will get strong. Because that's what it says in Psalm 1. It says, plant yourself close to the water so that you can tap in from the water, and the water you will flourish, and you will bear good fruit. Your fruit will be full, but be very careful where you take counsel. Be very careful who you talk to. Be careful where do you spend your time. So a tree is like a tree in water. And remember, it's not about you. It's not about us. It's about what we can give. It's about what the rest of the world. And Tian, I want to say something to you. You know, Job. When at the end of Job, he said to God, I heard about you, but now I know you. And that's what I want to say to you. I've heard about you, now I know you. And it was such a privilege. I enjoyed every minute that I've spent with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.